Good morning. How is everybody doing? What a time to be alive. Wow. Uh I I purposely ignored most of the Super Tuesday like live commentary and counts and everything. Um I purposely stayed away from the websites and the news media. I really didn't want to have this kind of ongoing, oh, is it this candidate that's going to win the primary? Is it this other candidate that's going to win the primary? Um, so I wake up this morning and I got my coffee, and I hope everyone has their coffee too. There we go. Took a sip of that. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Yep. Um, I raise my gain just a little bit because I seem to be a little on the low side. Here we go. I think that's good. So, uh, as I said, what a time to be alive. I'm looking at the results here, and honestly, I would say it's slightly depressing. If you're someone who loves the foundational principles of the United States, if you love the ideas that the founding fathers put forth, if you but not, let's not even look at that. Just if you enjoy freedoms, and if you enjoy God-given rights and you believe rights are God-given, uh you will look at the results today, and it's eye-opening, to say the least. But let's take a look. I'm gonna try and put it up on screen here, provided I don't boomer it up, which is always a possibility. Um, there's always a possibility of me boomering things up because it's what I do on occasion. Let's see here. So I might have to make some adjustments to the cropping of my window here because I was showing. I need to make some adjustments. Period um, in my browser here within my streaming software. But oops, see, I was just about to boomer it up. I managed to avoid it for now. I think that's good enough. So I'm going to shift this over just a tad so we have a decent view. There we go. So here are the main results. And as you notice, I jumped right into this. I'm not going to do any sort of shilling or anything like that. I'm not gonna kind of waste too much time with other discussions. There's a few things I really want to discuss about this. There's a few of the California districts that are very very interesting to me, and I want to say, well, I do want to give a greet to everybody that's watching on Periscope and on YouTube and Bitwave, D Live, and Twitch, and I believe I said YouTube. It's very early in the morning, so I may end up repeating myself. And I'm still getting some of the caffeine to course through my veins here. Um, so let's take a look at what we got here. So just 1 minute so I can actually properly. There we go. So we have here. This is not really behaving as expected. Okay, seems like this is not. It's not really behaving as I'm expecting here. Let me try something else for better interaction here, because this isn't working. Let's see. I apologize for the for the boomerang here. It always happens. That there's always some sort of little technical glitch that happens here, because I should be able to interact with this just specific browser instance that you're seeing here, but it's not letting me scroll properly, and I don't like that. I need to be able to show you guys what I'm talking about here, and I'm not sure why. That is not showing up here. Excuse me just one moment. I apologize for the delay here. There. I think this will do nicely. So let me just make a quick adjustment here. What's locking me up here? Okay. All right. I think we're getting a handle on the situation. Maybe. What is this? Oh. Okay. All right. Now, let's try this. Okay, so apart from all the graphics that you're seeing in front of the window here, I'm going to make some adjustments to this because this is getting a little cluttered. So hopefully for the next show, we'll get things situated a little bit better. But essentially, this is what we're looking at here. We have a pretty amazing night here. So we have Joe Biden winning 9 states, including Texas. And Bernie Sanders won the largest state, the largest number of delegates for Super Tuesday. In terms of states, the states that has the largest number, California. Right now, as what has been awarded, Biden has been awarded, obviously, as you can see from the screen here, 399, Bernie 322. Warren actually got, Bloomberg actually eked out of more delegates than Warren. Goodness, I had not realized that. And Warren got 42, Bloomberg 44, Mini Mike, and Tulsi got 1. Where does she even get that from? From what state? I'm curious about that. But the other thing that's very fascinating, actually, is there's these key ballots, down ballot primary races, and those are like really, really interesting to me because there's a couple districts, as I mentioned. One is Katy Hill, the district that Miss I Like to Sit Naked I have a tattoo of a white supremacist symbol on my right above her groin, apparently. Go figure. And combs the hair of her staffers. Yeah. So, naked. So go figure on that one. I'm not gonna try and understand that one. I'm just gonna move on. But there is, let's see. I had found here in California. There's two districts in particular that I find rather fascinating. One is because I wanted to see how horrible Cenk Uygur would lose, and my God, the California delivered for me on that one. That one is a glorious disaster. Let's bring that up real quick, and then we'll talk a little bit more about Super Tuesday. I just want to talk about these districts real quick, because for anyone who knows who Cenk Uygur is, there's some poetic justice in that, honestly. So here we go. Let me switch tabs here. And why is this now not behaving again? Oh, that's why. I'm sorry. User error. I had clicked on the wrong thing. There we go. So let's take a look here. This is the 2020 California primary results. He won the California. Biden, of course, won the primary for the national election here. And he got the most here in California so far. I mean, they're declaring him the winner. To my knowledge, there's only 75.74 precincts reporting in. So, I guess it's pretty much a given that he got it because of the gap between Bernie and Joe. But I don't know if California is a winner-take-all state. I don't believe so. So the interesting thing though is here Donald Trump, he got 92.7 in California. Others, I don't know who's even on the ballot against him, but there's some map data here. I'm using Politico as a source, by the way. I know Politico has its own leanings, but right now this is kind of a nicely organized way of showing stuff. So I'm not going to complain too much about it. But what I'm interested in is this right here. So if I'm not mistaken, let's see here. If I'm not mistaken, Pelosi's district is the 10th. No, 12th. I'm sorry. My bad. CA 12. So I wanted to take a look primarily at that. We got the 12th district. Yeah, that's a shame. Deanna Lorraine, I was really hoping she would do better. She had gotten a pretty good momentum, at least online and social media. I seen her putting like a plane and a banner saying lock Pelosi up, or Pelosi for prison. Actually, it was something. It was Pelosi for prison, if I'm not mistaken. Excuse me, I'm gonna take a sip of my coffee. 15th district, Eric Swalwell. That's depressing to know that Fartwell is still getting the support that he's getting. It's really that sucks. That really sucks. I'm not happy to hear about that. David Nunes retained his he's doing very well. He has a good support in his district. So there's that. You have nobody that was trying to run against Kevin McCarthy and Kim Mangone. I'm presuming I'm pronouncing that correctly. So that's interesting that McCarthy is unopposed. No, so there was no primarying there. Um, Here's an interesting race in District 24. This is kind of they're not too far off from each other really for primarying. So there's still a good chance that this could flip. Who knows? Then you have the 25th district, which is the one I'm very much interested in. So I'm not entirely sure why there's two. Oh, because there's a special election to fill in Katie Hill's seat, and then there's the actual runoff, the actual election. So there's two primaries for this district, and Cenk Uygur did horribly in both. Oh, Cenk. I guess you're gonna have to maybe find a job on the farm, pleasuring animals, because it seems like that's something you enjoy. Oh goodness. I mean, I know it's only 55% and 63%. It's not really the at least in the 70s for both of them, but I think pretty much Christy Smith. I had read that she was poised and predicted to take over Hill's seat. I don't know too much about her. I don't have a lot of faith in any Democrat, so I'm assuming they're just going to perpetuate the same nonsense that they usually do. Um, there's some silver linings with some Democrats sometimes where they're slightly more moderate, or at least they're trying to work with the other side, and they're not totally obstructionist, but that doesn't always happen very often. Um, but you have some pretty good numbers, even if the Republicans lost a couple of these primaries. Well, not lost the primaries, at least. Um, just looking at some of the numbers that they've gotten, there's reason to be somewhat optimistic that maybe some of these districts can flip red. Because, I mean, look at this for example. This isn't really a huge difference, 61,999 and 45,059. There's a bit of a gap there, of course, but I mean, if someone wants to think positive, they say, well, that's actually not too far off. Like Adam Schiff, for example. Here's another guy. How does this guy have so much support? It amazes me. He's made a complete ass of himself over and over and over and over. This is just 19%. Let's see what comes in more, and let's see if that gets updated or something, because this is pretty amazing. Ted Lieu, another guy who he keeps making an ass of himself and keeps making a fool out of himself. But I mean, this is Beverly Hills. These are like super. This is the mecca of liberalism, basically. Burbank, California. I mean, again, these are all like meccas of liberalism. So it's going to be very difficult to unseat these people. So I think that Republicans really need to examine their ground game in these really blue states. And well, here, for example, in northern Orange County, actually, surprisingly enough, Republican got more votes than the incumbent. So as I said, there's some positive, just a positive notes here and there. Let's see. I'm just taking a quick look if there's anything else that kind of jumps out at me here for California. I know we're going to talk a little bit more about the yeah. Okay. So let's see here. Let me switch back to the other screen that I was on. So really quick, while we're talking about, because I was looking at California, let's look at some other things here that are rather interesting. So we have Sessions. He's trying to win his seat back. And honestly, it's a dead heat, really. I mean, you got Tommy Tuberville, who's trying to get Sessions' seat. Sessions is trying to come back, and you have 32.2 for Tommy Tuberville, and Jeff Sessions has 31.1. I think Sessions was decent as a senator. I don't really have anything that I recall off the top of my head that I can say that I don't think he performed well in, except as Attorney General. I think he made big mistakes as Attorney General, but as a senator, and he was one of the first supporters of Donald Trump. He was key and instrumental in helping Trump gain support. I feel that he's good as a senator, but his performance as AG has definitely damaged him. So this is going to be a tough race for him, and he is an older man. I don't know how old Tommy Tuberville is. Let me take a quick look here if they show any pictures here. Let me just scroll down a little bit. Now, the picture is pretty much focusing solely on yeah. So it's gonna be a runoff basically. It's gonna be a runoff between Tommy Tuberville and Jeff Sessions. That's pretty much what it's gonna result to. Let me go back here. You have North Carolina that they're saying that the Republicans quote unquote meddled in the Democratic primary. I don't know anything about this. I haven't heard any stories about it. They're saying that this is the case here in Politico, but Politico has its own is a very left leaning publication, so it doesn't surprise me if they would blame the Republicans for something. And it seems like they were just you got a Democrat that got a lot of the votes here, so I don't see anything crazy with that. Whoops, that kind of scrolled away. What the heck? Sorry. What's going on here? Okay, we're back in business. I don't know what happened. This is an all-party primary. It says here the top two candidates will advance to November general election and succeed former Rep. Duncan Hunter, who resigned in January. So that's a free-for-all. The scrolling is really terrible on this website. I don't know what they're doing with the scripting on this thing. It's just terrible. Here's another free-for-all. This is Katie Hill, as we mentioned. And as we mentioned, Kirsty Smith is pretty much poised to, I think she's going to be replacing Hill just for the special election, and then we'll see what happens in the main election. And I still find it hilarious that Cenk cratered pretty bad on that one. House District 22 in Texas, another Bush was trying to get in there, Pierce Bush. These legacy politicians, really, I think, at least for the time being, ever since Bush basically crashed and burned, Jeb crashed and burned in 2016, I don't think these legacy guys are going to make a lot of headway anymore. It just, people have a bitter taste in their mouth over these guys. It's kind of because there's a bit of nepotism in that. There's a bit of just the performance of previous legacy candidates and senators and House reps, and I don't think that these kind of things are going to fly anymore. And then you have one thing that I found interesting was Minnesota. Minnesota, I found this very interesting. And the reason why I found this interesting was because, let's take a look at this real super fast. is that Elon Omar and Bernie Sanders have basically totally embraced each other in this thing. And Elon was endorsing Bernie because obviously she does, because she's a socialist as well. She's really pushing for all these socialist things. Apart from being a homophobe, being a domestic terrorist essentially, because she was promoting anti-American policies, being a racist and anti-Semite, open anti-Semite. She was supporting Bernie. Yet Biden still won in Minnesota. I don't know how the voting was in her district, because I'm not actually, honestly, I don't recall what her district was. Let's see. Nah, they're not really showing anything by district for now. But as you can see here, this aquamarine is all Biden. Uh, so he really did well in Minnesota, actually. Bernie only did well in a couple of counties. And Amy Klobuchar, this is her state, isn't it? This is her state. Klobuchar could not even get her own state. That, that tells you a lot, okay? But that does tell you something about, the support, or at least the credence that people put into Elon Omar. If Elon Omar was a really supported person, I would imagine that Bernie would have gotten a bigger boost. I mean, he still got 29.9%. That's nothing to sneeze at, mind you. But it's an interesting takeaway, in my opinion, that Bernie didn't do as well in Minnesota as you would think, with Elon Omar's endorsement and everything. So there you have it. I mean, that's the results. And as I was saying, what a time to be alive. And it's slightly depressing to see that a socialist slash communist like Bernie has such momentum and enough following that he could possibly eke out a primary victory. I don't know how they're going to distribute the rest of the delegates at this point, so we'll have to just wait and see. And on Thursday, obviously, I'll do my Thursday show. And I've been thinking a little bit about Thursday. I'm open to suggestions in terms of how to diversify that from my morning shows, because this is basically, the morning show is turning into a miniature version of my regular show that I do every week. So on Thursdays, I want to do something a bit different to kind of make it worth doing this big, longer weekly show. And I may change things up on that. I may do some call-ins, which I have done in the past. I haven't done too much. So if you want to participate, on bitwave.tv, in the description, you'll find the Discord link. Make sure that you join the chat there, and make sure that you tune in on Thursday at 8 p.m. And we'll kind of do a weekly recap politically of what's been happening. And we'll do some call-ins, and we'll kind of talk about a little bit of everything. And maybe we'll figure out a couple different things that we can do on top of political talk, because I have other interests besides politics, But but I find this the most interesting thing to talk about, because to me it's a very fascinating topic, and I think that it behooves people to be tuned in. I think one of the biggest problems that we have in politics today is that people are just not tuned in enough. I talk to people that don't really listen to the news, that don't really pay much attention to social media, and they don't know hardly anything of what these candidates say, like the silliest things that these candidates say and the stupid things that the media does, because they're just tuned out. And on one side, it's not necessarily a bad thing because it does give you less aggravation. But on the flip side, I feel that it's very bad when it comes to actually voting, because you need to be informed. You need to you need to be tuned in, at least enough to pay attention to what's going on and know where these candidates stand, and not just have a blind support for a political party or a blind support for a candidate because he happens to have a certain letter at the end of his name. I think it's important to know, for example, that you have Bernie supporters who want to throw people in gulags, who want to do re-education camps, who want to use violence to subjugate people that are of a opposite political philosophy. I mean, that's insanity. That's incredibly scary stuff. This is dictatorial, authoritarian stuff, and they accuse the right of being authoritarian. Yet I have not heard one single supporter on the right that have made such calls to violence and such calls to basically act as previous dictators have, like Stalin and Mao and Hitler. I mean, this is moving towards a monumental point in our history of the United States. It's turning into, will this country become a socialist country? Will this election determine whether we remain a free constitutional republic or a socialist dictatorship? It's a fight for the identity of the United States, and it's a fundamental question. Really, it's a fundamental question that needs to be answered. And there's people that have been working at trying to subvert the United States for a very long time. I mean, this sort of indoctrination has happened since the 60s and the hippies. This is not something new, and it's been ignored for a very long time. And this is the result. You have a couple generations that have just been suckered into this nonsense. And I tell everybody at the end of my streams, and I'm coming to a close because I'm running late here, and I have to get myself prepped for the day. And my morning shows, as I mentioned, they're only like a 30-minute show, and we're already at the 36-minute mark at least. I always say, don't be complacent. Don't be complacent, because this is the reason. You have people that are in office and in power who want to take down the United States as we know it. They are convinced that our country is a racist country. They are convinced that our country is an evil country. They are convinced that everything that we have today is on the back of injustice on all sides, be it economic, social, racial, etc. And it's just such a skewed and incorrect view of the United States, because, well, let's put it this way. I'm not denying that there have been certain injustices in the past, and I'm not denying that there have been certain problems in the past. But to make the implication as a matter-of-fact statement that this country is just racist, this country is just evil, and this country has its prosperity on the sufferings and injustices of the past, it's just incorrect. Because no matter what the injustices were that have happened in the past, one thing, or two main points remain, actually, two. One point is from the quote unquote discovery of America to present, and from the Declaration of Independence and a ratification of our Constitution to present, people have made enormous sacrifices, including their lives, to make this country what it is today. We fought in several wars. We have made a lot of legal battles. We've set up our country in a way to try and make this country as fair as possible, as accountable as possible, having checks and balances and different systems in play to make sure that all of our systems don't run wild and go rogue. And this is the second point then. We have made progress. Sure, there was slavery, for example. Sure, there's no denying that. I'm not denying that. Nobody's denying that. But what did our founding fathers do? Even if they were slave owners, from the very beginning, the language that they put in the Constitution was not excluding. It was not a all white men are created equal. It was the language used referred to all human beings, and they were deeply Christian in their belief system, and you have that injected into the concept of God-given rights, which, whether you're religious or not, or Christian or not, if you just look at natural law, and I've talked a little bit about this. If you look at natural law, and you look at how natural rights are defined within natural law, you will find that there is this kind of correlation between our system and natural law, and how these rights are there. They're not given by a government. They're not made up by people just because they want something to be a right. They're intrinsically part of human existence. That you, as a human being, you have a right. You have a right to express yourself. You have a right to defend yourself. You have a right to believe whatever you want to believe without fear of persecution, especially from your government. Free press, the free press is something that was kind of novel at the time, because you wouldn't have a newspaper that would criticize the king or a monarch. That's unheard of. Why would you have that? A monarch would never allow something like that. So, just to wrap this up, this is an identity war that we're fighting. This is a culture war that we're fighting, and it seems to me that it's frightening how much support someone like Bernie has. It's frightening to see how many people support a communist and a socialist. And they don't understand the implications of that. It's one thing to kind of like certain political and economic philosophies for their philosophies. But there's a difference when you want to fundamentally change a country that'll have such a negative impact and just destroy economies and cause countless suffering. And this was something that I was thinking about yesterday about the media and the coronavirus. I'm going to mention this and then we're going to wrap it up. I find it fascinating and horribly depressing to see how much the media revels in news items like the coronavirus, because they're using this to try and damage Trump and his administration and his handling of it. And to me, there's a line to be drawn. I get criticisms. I get being the opposition. And I think I've mentioned this in other streams too. But the thing that really bothers me is when you take that opposition and you actively want people to die. You have that councilwoman. I think she's out in Colorado. She's an open socialist and said that she wants socialism by any means necessary, which should frighten anybody when they hear words like that. Okay? And she says that if she catches the coronavirus, or like someone said in her feed that if she catches the coronavirus, she would go to every MAGA rally. She goes, yes, this. She supports that. I mean, using a virus, a potentially fatal virus, as a bioweapon, essentially, because you don't like Trump, Orange Man bad, and you don't like the conservatives and Republicans, and you want to infect as many people as possible and physically harm people. This goes back to the Bernie Bros with the gulags and indoctrination and being physical. They want to learn how to shoot guns, they said in the video. It's their words. Their words. This is not just a culture war anymore. I mean, it's still a culture war and it's still a war for the identity of the United States. But it's getting dangerously into the physical. It's getting dangerously into reality. This isn't just people yelling at each other on Twitter and Facebook anymore. And this has been going on ever since 2016, and the media is not just complacent. The media is perfectly okay with this. I have not heard one leftist media outlet condemning Antifa, for example. I have not heard any news media outlets covering these Project Veritas videos of the Bernie Bros. The media wants this. They are part of this. They want the socialism. They want this. And then you have politicians like AOC and even Nancy Pelosi. Supporting gangs, supporting MS-13, saying that they have a spark of divinity. These people that dismember minors, young underage girls, rape, dismember, murder in cold blood. I don't really see much of a spark of divinity in that. More like a spark of evil. But I digress. I'm gonna have to call it a day with this episode. I want to thank everyone for watching, and I know this is very early in the morning, so I don't expect a lot of viewership at this point. But if you replay, I hope you enjoyed this, and if you are so kind, please follow, subscribe, hit notifications for all the platforms that I'm on. See my pinned tweet. I have a pinned tweet on my Twitter account, twitter.com/theeternalabyss with one S at the end. Check out the pinned tweet. You'll see all my social media platforms there and all the video platforms. Please follow all of them, subscribe, hit notifications so you know when streams happen, you get announced. And if you are so kind to support me, I'm truly appreciative of that. Streamlabs.com/theeternalabyss. Any level of generosity is greatly appreciated. And maybe I can do this full time and do the morning streams at a less ungodly hour. So maybe we can progress here and see if we can do something that works better for everybody, including myself and viewership. So I hope you enjoyed the stream. I hope everyone has a wonderful day. And if everything goes well, we'll stream tomorrow again at 7 a.m. And then don't forget, we have my Thursday show at 8 p.m. where we kind of do a whole recap of everything. And we'll do call-ins for sure. So please make sure you get on Discord. You can find that at bitwave.tv/The Eternal Abyss. 2 S's on that one. You can definitely make sure to get in there, and I'll take some quote unquote callers that come into the voice chat, and just kind of field maybe some questions, or we'll discuss certain topics, and we'll see what else we can throw into the show to spice it up a little bit. So remember, kids, don't be complacent. If this primary has taught us anything, we definitely must not be complacent. Have a good night, or have a good day.